Welcome to today's webinar on ensuring academic integrity in the age of AI. We're excited to have you join us today. Before we get started, I just want to let you know a few housekeeping items. Closed captions are available, so feel free to turn them on or off depending on your needs. The Zoom Q&A box is available for any questions that you have throughout today's session. Please keep all questions specific to today's topic, and we'll do our best to answer any of those questions live during our session. But if you don't see an answer while we're together, be sure to check the Q&A report that we'll send in a follow-up email. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted to our Bright Ideas for Higher Education YouTube playlist. You can expect to see that video posted within a week. And in the coming days, we'll send all registrants an email with a link to that playlist, a copy of the slide deck, which contains some additional resources, and a copy of the Q&As from today's session. So, looks like we have a lot of folks joining from Canada and all throughout the US today. I'll have to look through these a little bit more as time goes on, but let's go ahead and get started with today's agenda. So first, we're going to start with some quick introductions. From there, we'll dive deeper into today's topic. We'll have a demo in the platform, and to finish off, we'll have time to share some of those resources, have a discussion opportunity, and some live Q&A time. So for those who don't know, my name is Victoria Fulhenshaw, and I'm a customer success specialist at D2L. Essentially, my role is to help educators like you make the most of your Brightspace tools. And I'm very excited to share that we have Dana Armstrong and Kim Nab joining us from Bongo today. You'll get to hear more from Dana here in a moment. Dana will be presenting, and Kim will be supporting us in the Q&A alongside Heather and Sophie, who are joining us here from D2L. And before we get too far, I do want to align on some quick terms. D2L is the company that myself, Heather, and Sophie work for. Brightspace is our product, a learning management system. And depending on where you work, you might call your Brightspace instance something different, like Avenue to Learn or Power Ed. But even if your Brightspace instance does go by a different name, as long as you're here, then it likely refers to Brightspace. And then we also have Brightspace Community, which is D2L's free online website where members can find great teaching and learning information, share best practices, and connect with other professionals who are using Brightspace. We'll add a link to the chat for you to register if you are not yet a member. I'm going to stop sharing and let Dana take things over here.
Thanks so much here. I'm just going to get my screen set up, so bear with me for 2 moments. Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Dana. I'm a customer experience director at Bongo, but I always like to start with a fun fact because I recognized so many folks in the chat. I was actually a previous D2Ler. So I worked at D2L for about 15 years, and that's why I know a lot of you folks in the chat. But I've been at Bongo for the last 4 years, which means I've been working with Brightspace customers for almost 2 decades. So it's been a really exciting time for me, especially in the world that we are right now, where education is being so transformed by all things AI. So I'm really excited to talk about what we're trying to achieve here today. So by the end of this session, there's really 3 key takeaways I want you to have. The first one is going to be how AI is reshaping assessments, so why it's creating gaps between what students submit and what they actually understand. Second, I want to focus on how explanation-based, assessments can help close that gap by requiring students to demonstrate their thinking. And third, I want you to, or how you can bring, this to life in Brightspace using video assignments so that you can leave with something that's more practical that you can apply. And I do want to say right off the hopper, everybody has access to a certain level of the video assignment solution in Brightspace. So make sure that you pay attention near the end as I show you where you can get access. So let's kind of jump into it. AI has really changed the classroom faster than almost any shift we've seen in education. And I've seen that over the last 20 years, as I mentioned. And I think most of us are still really figuring out what that actually means in practice. On one hand, there's a lot of excitement. AI can support learning, it can help accelerate feedback, it can open up new ways of engaging students. But on the other hand, it's really introduced a real challenge that we're all seeing today. We're no longer sure or very sure that the work that we're assessing actually reflects what students know and what they can do. And that creates a deeper issue than just cheating. It raises that question around skill development, fairness, and ultimately trust in what our assessments are measuring. So today I'm not going to focus on how to catch students using AI. I know that's a hot topic. Instead, I want to explore a different approach. So how do we design assessments where students can demonstrate their understanding so that AI becomes less of a shortcut and more of a support tool? And I'll show you a practical way that institutions are using it, like I mentioned, in Brightspace so that you guys can get right on it yourselves. So before we talk about the actual solutions, I think it's important to ground ourselves in what's actually happening. AI use in education isn't something that's coming. We have all seen it. It's already deeply embedded in how students are working today. So in Canada alone, over half of the students report using AI for schoolwork, and in the US, it's about the same, similar numbers. So what's even more interesting isn't just the usage, it's the ambiguity around it. So a large amount of students consider it cheating, but they're still using it, which tells us something really important. It isn't about policy, it's about a clarity issue. Students don't have a clear understanding of where that line is, and institutions are really struggling to define and reinforce consistently. So what we end up with is learning environments where AI is widely used, but not always in ways that support actual skill development. And that's where the real problem starts to emerge. It's not just that AI is being used, but it's that we can't confidently say what students actually know anymore. So when we talk about AI in education, the conversation, like I mentioned at the beginning, kind of always surrounds around cheating. But I want to, argue that framing is actually a bit too narrow. And it's leading us to a lot of wrong solutions or solutions that aren't working. The deeper issue really is that we've historically used assignment completion as a proxy for determining understanding. So if a student goes and submits work, we assume that they've done the thinking required to produce the actual work. But with AI, the connection it's breaking. Students can now produce really high quality outputs without necessarily actually engaging in the learning process behind it. So the problem isn't just students might be cheating, it's that we can no longer confidently say, does this work actually reflect what the student knows? Once that connection between that completion and understanding starts to break, it doesn't just impact the grading, it has broader consequences. So first, there's that skill erosion. If students are relying on AI to generate responses, they're missing the opportunity to actually practice critical thinking, communication, problem solving. Second, it also creates an unfair advantage. So we're seeing students who are using AI extensively, they can produce stronger outputs with less effort, which puts honest students at a disadvantage. And then third, which is a really big one, it impacts trust. So if educators can't confidently say that grades reflect real ability, it starts to erode trust in the assessment process itself. And last but not least, it shows up in the workforce readiness. So employers are increasingly looking for skills like communication, adaptability, critical thinking, and those are the exact skills that are the hardest to fake and easiest to miss if you're not assessing to them directly. So naturally, the response has been to try and control or detect behavior, but that's where things start to break down. Uh, we've seen this before. Institutions, they see the problem, and the natural response is to try to control it, put a lid on it as best you can. And that typically we see shows up in three different ways. The first one is detection. So using AI detection tools to try and identify when content has been changed. The challenge is, though, as we probably all have examples of, these tools often are inconsistent. So they can miss AI generated work, or they actually flag something that's original, which is a really tough situation. The second is policy. So institutions are updating to the best of their ability academic integrity guidelines, which is still important. Um, Working through defining what is acceptable and what isn't from an AI perspective, but in practice, the policies The policies can be difficult to enforce consistently, especially when the expectations aren't crystal clear across the board. And then the third approach is more controlled environments. So we see lots of new solutions and some older ones investing in things like lockdown browsers. There's a ton more proctoring solutions on the market. And those can limit access, but they don't necessarily still tell us whether a student understands the material and can apply that from a skill-based perspective. So across all of these approaches, the common theme is that they're reactive. So they focus on trying to catch or prevent behavior rather than designing assessments to make that behavior less effective in the first place. So what does this actually look like in practice? So at a high level, it's really about shifting the types of assignments we're asking students to complete or complementing assignments with each other. Instead of submitting only written work, students could be asked to explain their thinking in their own words. That might look like walking through a problem that they solved, teaching a concept in their own words, responding to a scenario where they have to apply what they've learned. The key difference here is that these responses require articulation in their own words. Students can't rely solely on AI-generated text. They have to demonstrate understanding. And what's interesting is that it doesn't just, make cheating harder. It's actually going to improve your learning outcomes because students aren't just practicing communication, reinforcing concepts. They're actually practicing communication, reinforcing concepts, and building that confidence as they go through that process. And this is also where I want to show you that AI can actually play a positive role because instead of using AI to generate answers, AI can actually be used on the flip side to provide feedback. So helping students refine their delivery and improve their clarity, identify gaps in their understanding before they submit assignments. So you get the best of both worlds. We're going to show you how you can do some more authentic assessment, but then also scale your support from a feedback perspective. Okay, so we talked about the shift from evaluating outputs to evaluated thinking and what that can look like in theory. But it's really going to click when I show you and you can see it. So I'm going to walk through a couple examples using Brightspace video assignments or Bongo video assignments from both the student and the instructor perspective, so you can see how it works in a real learning environment. But before I jump in, I do want to make a quick note on access. So I will go over these 4 assignment types really briefly, but there are 4 distinct assignment types available in Brightspace today. Your visibility into these workflows may look different depending on your implementation. So everybody on this call who has access to Brightspace means you will have access to the individual assignment workflow, which is on the first one on the list, as it comes with the LMS core offering. So I'm going to show you exactly where to find that and explain what to do if you can't see it. Within that individual workflow, there are some AI-driven features that are part of a premium offering, as well as the other 3 assignment types. So there's going to be a mixture on the call of who has access to all of these versus some of these. We're going to focus on the ones primarily that everybody has access to first, and then I'll highlight a couple examples for the rest of the folks. But I'm going to make sure I call that out very clearly as we go. But the theme here is that all of these approaches, whether it's individual responses or more spontaneous prompts or interactive group-based formats is the common thread that it requires students to articulate their thinking. So let me just go over this list super, super quickly, and then it's more fun when you actually get to see the solution in practice. So the 4 video assignment types we have, the first one is our individual assessment. So this is the one that everybody will have access to a basic offering. This allows students to come on camera and deliver presentations or more longer format talk tracks where they can then submit that video and get feedback either from instructors, peers, or as I'll show you for the premium offering, also some AI level feedback. The second one that I'm hoping we have time for is the question and answer workflow. The question and answer workflow is more of a prompt and response, or you can think about it as an oral quiz kind of workflow, where the learner is put on the spot to answer questions in a limited amount of time. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, especially in the world or concern of AI cheating, to put students in the driver's seat on the spot to authentically respond to questions as they come up. We won't quite have time for the other two workflows. I'll highlight them really quickly, but you can always reach out to your CSE or CSM at D2L who can connect us to get you some more information. But the other two, so you're aware, are the interactive video, third on the list here. This one is more about learners consuming video. So if you have video in your course already, but you have that challenge of you're not sure if they're watching that or engaged and you want to validate that they have understanding throughout the video, you can upload into the interactive video and have interactive elements that pop up throughout the video, such as multiple choice questions, or you can even have their camera engaged and they can respond live on camera. And last but not least, we do have a group workflow. Think about this as like a one-stop shop for all things related to group work. So it's a space where learners can form groups, collaborate with each other asynchronously and synchronously, meaning they can join into virtual classroom sessions and work on projects or record presentations together and have the ability to submit that work together and also be able to do peer review and group review feedback as well. So those are the four. We're going to start with the individual assessment or assignment because I know that's the one everybody has access to, and I really want to focus first on where you're going to find it. So I'm going to jump into a Brightspace assignment first. So I want to set the stage here. I know a lot of you folks on the call have different content experiences enabled in your Brightspace environment. I am in a sample course right now where I have the new content experience turned on. You might have the classic content experience turned on, which means it's slightly different, but the functionality once you launch into the video assignment solution is exactly the same. So the place you're going to find video assignments across the board for everybody is in the Add Existing workflow. So in the new content experience, it's quite a large button here in blue, so it's easy to find. In the classic experience, it should be a drop down kind of lower on the screen here where you're going to add existing content into the content tool. I'm going to click on Add Existing here just so you can see where to find it in this workflow. When I click that button, you're going to see video assignments as one of the options. Most of you should see this. I do want to put a notice out there that if you do not see this, this just means it's not configured in your platform, but you do have the tooling available to you. So if you're not seeing it and you're curious about wanting to use it in your course, simply reach out to your Brightspace admin or even your CSM or D2L CSE who can help guide that experience. It just needs to be configured in your course. But for the rest of the folks who can see this right away, all you would do is click on video assignment. And here is where you would see those options like I mentioned. So if you have the premium offering, everything will be selectable. If you have the core or free offering, you will see just the individual as something you can click into, and the rest might be grayed out. I have already pre-built some assignments, so I'm just going to go back one step and access something I've already created. But again, just to reiterate, if folks are doing this live with me, just go to the Add Existing and you'll see the option there. So I am just going to quickly flip into one that I've already created within the content tool and show you quickly how you can set up an assignment as an example of applying your learning here. So this is what it looks like to set up, and I'm hopeful that some people are doing this live with me, so I'll try to explain as we go pretty quickly. But the setup is very much set up in a wizard, meaning you just have to select the steps on the left-hand side, and the screen to the right-hand side will be the step that you're on and completing. So I have done a very simple example of how you can set up a video assignment where I'm asking my learner to explain their thinking by applying a core concept. In the instructions here, I've asked them to take a core concept from this week's material and teach it back with own examples from their own world. Other ideas for creating assignments like this, I even have instructors in writing courses where they're asking the student to write an essay, but then they're asked to complete a video assignment where they talk through how they came up with their thesis, how they structured their essay, really articulating the thought process they put into creating that asset like an essay. So it's a good example of marrying both a written assignment with a video assignment as well. So I can put my instructions in the middle here. I do also like to call out, since we have so many faculty and instructors on the call, we do support video instructions as well. So we are a video assignment or video at heart platform. We have the ability for you to pop up, record a quick instruction. It really is a way to engage your students from a more personal perspective of just walking them through exactly what you expect of them in this assignment, or it could be some pre-canned video that you have as well. The second step I want to call out is the evaluation, because this is where some folks on the call will also see a slightly different experience. The core offering comes with the ability for you to manually review learner submissions via things like a percentage. So the very traditional way of submitting an assignment. This means once your learner has submitted their video, you will receive access to their video as I show you when we get to the instructor view, and you can provide scoring and feedback, including timestamped comments on their video. So it's a really powerful way that you can use it in the Brightspace core. I'm going to show you, just for this explanation, how you can use AI. I mentioned that there's a really cool way of using AI to help scale your time. So I'm going to enable smart scoring on this for the folks that are using premium and have enabled the AI functionality. Smart scoring allows our AI to be able to consume what the learner has said as part of their presentation or their overview or their submission and provide them with really pointed feedback on exactly how well they're performing or doing compared to what the success criteria looks like. You do not have to use this. You can have this be fully human-based review as well, so just calling that out. Now, how would our AI have any idea what the learner's supposed to be talking about? We do not make this up. I want to make it really crystal clear that you are the guiding light towards what success looks like. And you're going to do that by setting up what we call learning objectives. And is here in the learning objectives where you are giving the AI context. You're doing that by what we call generating learning objectives. So you can hit generate and you drag and drop in any relevant course or assignment materials that will help give the AI context into what the success looks like. So it could be an overview of the assignment, it could be content from your course that you've created. You can also just hit enter manually and type in details here as well, which a lot of folks just type in the learning objectives that they would like to see. And when you hit generate, our system will automatically create those for you. I've already done that just for speed purposes here. And you can see that I have 3 learning objectives that were created with sub-criteria underneath that make up the success of the higher level criteria. So this means that for my learner to do well in delivering a clear and structured explanation, I've asked them to do these 3 things. The reason I want to call this out is I know a lot of you guys on the call have already started using this, and I like to really call out that there's the edit functionality. Some folks have created the objectives and just used what the system created, which is great, but I really want to encourage you that you can also edit any one of these, change the wording, modify in a way that makes more sense for you, and that editing shows up when you hover over the item here. But what I've done now is created a really clear structure for the AI to know what success looks like, all guided by you, the person authoring this assignment. And then I do want to call out just super quick, you have a lot of flexibility in how you want your learners to submit these assignments. You can let them choose how they would want to record these presentations, so on camera or with their screen. They can even upload it if they've recorded it elsewhere, and you can just uncheck any of the items that you don't want them to see when they go to do their assignment. Once I would hit save here, this would go directly into the content tool within Brightspace. So here it is right now. So hopefully for those that are following along, that gives you a really good picture of how to really quickly create. Again, this is something that you have access to in the Brightspace core, the AI functionality being part of the premium. I don't want to make you too dizzy here because I'm flipping over quite quickly to show you what it looks like from a student perspective, because I think that that's the really important piece here. I also have this in a new content experience, and the course is pretty stripped down because what I've done is just highlighted the video assignment piece that you could add into your course. I just have a couple links to Bongo assignments, but you can imagine this could be within the flow of work for your students. So there might be some content pieces, there might be a Brightspace quiz, and then you have the opportunity to have a video assignment wherever you should choose to have within the content experience. So here I am, again, remember I'm logged in as the student now or the learner, and I'm going to go ahead and start, or I've already started, I'll show you, my video of applying the knowledge that I learned in the class or in my course. Keep the volume down here. So here's an example of what it would look like. This is my professor who has come in and recorded a video welcoming me into this activity. I feel that personal connection with her and I'm excited to get started. On the right-hand side here, I have my instructions about how I'm going to more, authentically record myself, applying what I learned in my course, so really show that I have depth and understanding of what's going on. We do also showcase the higher level learning objectives, not the sub-criteria, but the high level objectives, so that your learners, in combination with the video, the instructions, and the objectives, have a really clear indication as to what success looks like and what I need to do to get started. Now, if this was the very first time this learner was in this assignment, they would see only the modalities in which you've made available for them to record their assignment. So as you saw, I had unclicked a few options here, and I have said that my learner can either just jump on camera and start recording the presentation, or they can share their camera and maybe a visual aid as well, so sharing their screen. These tabs up here represent the fact that I, as the learner, have been in here practicing. Because I think what's really cool about the video assignment solution across the board, again, everybody has access to this, is practice mode. You have the ability to give your learners a very safe place to practice this talk track as many times as they would like. When I click on any one of these assignment or practices, if you are using our core offering, so the solution everybody has, every learner has visibility into watching back their presentation. They can visually see how they've done. They can listen back, reflect, and decide if you want to re-record or not. If you have the AI features turned on as part of the premium solution, your learners will also gain access to the right-hand side here, where the AI is starting to give really pointed feedback on how well they are doing according to the success criteria that you set up, so the learning objectives. They have the ability to see quite clearly, I like to go right into the detailed analysis, how well they're communicating. Are they speaking clearly? Are they using filler words? Are they speaking too quickly, too slowly? They can even come down to their transcript, understand if they're using too many filler words, and if so, what are they? And more importantly, they can go to the tips and feedback. And the tips and feedback is where we are starting to give these learners very pointed and personalized feedback on how well they are meeting the objectives that you set for the assignment. So again, it is not made up AI feedback. This is very specific to the success criteria that you, as the author of this assignment, have created. And it gives them an opportunity to come in and say, okay, what am I doing well? What are my areas of excellence? And it's going to give me some feedback on what I said. Or more importantly, what do I need to keep working on? I need to understand what skill or what item that I'm missing here that I need to go back and reflect on my work and work towards improving. So that was the piece that I was saying, that there's some good in AI, especially when it comes to our faculty, our instructors, our TAs, who wished they had 75 hours in every day so you could have office hours with everybody, but we know that's just not achievable. So this gives you the next best thing where you can guide our AI into giving the context that is needed to be able to support those learners who are practicing at midnight the day before their assignment might be due. So in this example, I practiced again. So you have lots of opportunities again to provide them with unlimited access to practicing to see how they can improve. And then they have the opportunity to submit that video that's really going to showcase that they are authentically being able to demonstrate the skill, demonstrate the understanding, and showcase the learning that they've applied from the course to what they're submitting. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that version so they can choose which one they would like to do. So in the instructions here, I said now that you've submitted the video, we're going to wait for the instructor to provide some feedback. You do have the opportunity for those folks that do want to use the AI to produce the grade and the feedback right away, but most institutions I work with have faculty who want to review those submissions, especially those folks that are using the core version. So this is where I've got to flip back and forth again, but I want to show you now what it looks like from your perspective, from the instructor perspective, of how the learner has submitted and how you can provide some really personalized feedback. So I'm back in as the instructor in this course. And when I click on the assignment in the content tool, this is where you're going to see what we call the learner overview dashboard. It's going to show you everybody in your course and where they are towards the progression of completing that assessment or that assignment. My demo course only has a couple students, but I know most of you support large classes. So this is a really important overview if you have, 100, 200 plus students and being able to indicate where they are in their journey and maybe give folks a nudge if you're concerned about where they are. But in this example, we've got Cindy, who I just submitted as. She's been evaluated by the AI, but not yet published. So this is the piece that you can now go in as the instructor, see what the AI has to say, but also adjust and make your own feedback and comments. So here I am. And I can see that we have a suggested score of 14 out of 15 for my learner based on those learning objectives. I can see that by hitting edit details that she is getting scored out of 5 points for each one of those learning objectives. Now I can go through and see that she only got 4 to 5 on one of the objectives, and I can go to the details and the AI will walk me step by step through what the learner said or didn't say, and therefore why that score was achieved. You do not have to agree with it. You can simply come in and change that by plus or minusing along the way. And you're going to do that obviously in tandem with watching or consuming the video of that learner as well, because you have the opportunity to provide some really personalized feedback as well. This piece is also really important in the core offering or the free offering. You won't have the AI structured grading, but you will have the opportunity to review and provide a score yourself. And you will have the opportunity to be able to watch the video. As I'm watching this video, I've turned the volume off so I don't make you deaf. I can start clicking in and I can say anything I want here. Great job. I would have discussed this. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more specific than that, but you'll see my face just paused in the most awkward possible spot. But it's pausing because it's giving me, as the instructor, a minute to write out my reflections. And as soon as I hit send, then you're going to see that that is time-stamped for the student. So when the student gets back their assessment, they can see that little time-stamped mark there. So that's available again for every single one of you who want to use the free version of video assignments. And it's a really, really great way to give your learners that contextual feedback, reflecting back on how they've been able to, very authentically explain how they've applied learning from your course. And you can have a conversation via the timestamp feedback. I do like to call out again, because we have a lot of faculty, not a lot of people know that you do have the opportunity for comment banks or preset comments as we talk, or as we call them. So I just made a comment here. You'll note that there's a 3-dot menu. Calling this out because I did see quite, enough of you say that you use Bongo enough in the poll, and not a lot of people know this exists. So there is an add as preset button that shows up once you make a comment. Just know that's there. You can create a comment bank, and that's going to follow you across all of your courses as an instructor. You also, for those that are using the AI-enabled features, have access to the same AI coaching that the learner would have provided, as well as a deep dive into that detailed analysis that the student sees as well, including the transcript of the call as well, or of the presentation as well, if you just want to read through that. But that gives you a good idea, hopefully, of how to create an individual assignment. Again, everybody has access to that, how to add that into your content tool, how learners would then submit and practice their opportunity or practice their presentations, and then how you can go in and provide scoring and feedback, regardless if you're using the AI functionality or not. I do want to show maybe pretty quickly. I can see Victoria, so you just tell me if I'm good to go for another 5 or 6 minutes. Okay, perfect. Because I do want to show you, if I flip back to the list of assignments here, we just completed that individual assessment here. The question and answer one comes up, I would say, just as much when it comes to folks who are concerned about academic integrity in the world of AI, because it's an opportunity for you to put learners on the spot to answer questions in their own words, very authentically, as opposed to being able to potentially use AI to try to find written answers or responses. So I will try to be very quickly show you from an instructor perspective again, where just to create these super quick. It's the same concept. You're going to go into add existing. You're going to go to video assignment for those that are following. And we're going to click on question and answer. That's the second one. I'm navigating back just really quickly because I've already created one, so I can show you what it looks like. And this one is more of a knowledge check. So I have created this one as more of an oral quiz of sorts. The setup is very similar. This one is only available to the premium users. So if you don't see this one, you just might have to reach out to your CSM or your CSE. But in the question and answer, I have said that I'm going to put you on the spot to answer some questions in a limited amount of time. From an evaluation perspective, I've actually turned on smart scoring for this one as well, just to show you guys the kind of full extent of how the AI functionality can work should you want to use this. But I'll remind you when I get to the screen after we're done, and I'll say it again right now, that is just optional. Everything can be reviewed fully by humans, instructors, TAs, etc. You don't need to use the AI for this workflow to still work. The difference between individual and question and answer. Individual is, of course, a more long form presentation. Question and answer is about answering questions in a limited amount of time. So just like the other workflow, we have the option for you to click on generate. You can drop in a bunch of resources, chapters of a textbook, a web page, it doesn't matter. It'll then consume that content and suggest questions that you could ask, along with what the proper response to those questions should be. Each one of these questions, once they're created, you can then click into the question. You can completely change the wording of whatever the AI has suggested for that question. So it is just a guide. You can decide to change it or write it yourself from the get-go if you already know what questions you want to ask your learners. You can record yourself asking the question. So again, it feels like a real conversation, even though it is done asynchronously. You can decide if questions, one question should be worth a different set of points versus the other. And you can give some guidance to what the response should be. When I say guidance to what the response should be, I want to be super clear. We are not asking your learners to memorize scripts to questions. There's ways to write the response criteria that the AI understands if the learners are using their own words, if they're structuring their sentences slightly different, as long as the students or the learners are following the structure of the response, the AI is really smart and can provide feedback and scoring. You can also be in charge of validating responses as well. So there's a lot more settings that go into play there, but I just wanted to briefly show you the difference between individual and question and answer. And then I'm going to do a live oral quiz here to show you folks what it looks like from the knowledge check perspective. And then we'll get into questions and discussion from there. So here's what it looks like for the students as we get started. You'll note it's very similar. Here's my professor, my instructor again. She's talking to me. She's getting me ready and confident that in this assignment, I'm going to be demonstrating my understanding of key concepts that I learned. This is a fictitious communication studies example or a business course example. The use case is agnostic. It can be across any discipline or any subject that you want. I just had to pick a random example. And as a learner, I'm just going to make sure I come off camera in Zoom because I am going to be in camera in the product. And I just need to come down here as the learner, activate my recorder, just make sure it can see me, hear me, and get me ready to go for my live oral quiz. Or again, this could be scenario-based questions, any use case you can think of here. I'm hoping my sound is sharing. 2 seconds here. I don't know if the sound is shared, but that's okay because the question is going to be written on the screen regardless. So it'll just be like closed captioning, but just note that there is sound if it isn't shared. But a couple things before I start. In the real world, especially like I mentioned in the concerns around AI cheating, your students wouldn't know what this question is. It's meant to be on the spot so that they're applying what they've learned immediately. This isn't the real world. This is a demo, and I want to show you what the AI does in response. So I know what the questions are going to be. You're going to hear me respond in a certain way. Just know that I'm not using the response criteria. I've come up with my own wording, but I am purposely going to answer questions in a bit of a funny way so you can see how the AI provides feedback and scoring. So we're just going to do 2 quick questions. I'll answer one, then call out a little bit about what you've seen on the screen, and then complete it with a second one. Well, I think active listening helps leaders communicate effectively by showing respect for team members' viewpoints and building trust. However, it doesn't significantly impact the leader's understanding of their team's concerns or ideas, as leaders can still make decisions without needing to fully engage in active listening. So hopefully we know that that was a fake bad answer. I wouldn't have answered it that way normally. But things I want you to notice as I go to the next question is above my head, there was a stopwatch there or a timer. That's how much time my instructor has given me to respond to the question. So you can decide how long or how short you want your students to respond to these questions. You'll also see that in the corner there was a little picture of me and I was waving. That's an optional setting where you can actually record your learners listening to the question that's about to be asked. A really good way to make it feel like a real conversation with a human or just to validate that they're paying attention. And then you did see that the question was written to the side of me. You can actually have that disappear if you wanted it to be an active listening assessment where they need to pay attention and then respond right away. But I'm going to go ahead and do one more really quick, and then we should be able to wrap up. Yeah, so I think context and communication assist team members by offering the necessary background information to grasp the full meaning of the message. It enables them to see the broader perspective, understand how their tasks connect to the organization's objectives, and makes for better informed choices. So that was just a really simple way of showing you a couple questions. We do have the option to allow for retake, which that would show up in this little three dot menu if you had turned it on. I didn't turn that on here, so it is going to process my questions without allowing me to retake. I'm just trying to come back on camera. Here we go. And the other thing you can do is also have question banks. So again, back to the potential frustration of students, cheating or calling each other up saying, "Psst, by the way, here's what the question's going to be." You can have a bank of questions that are going to be randomized, and each learner is going to get a different combination of different questions. So there's lots of opportunities to really protect against both cheating from each other or being able to, just work together on something. And this is an opportunity to put them on the spot to more authentically respond as themselves. And in that short time period of about 10 seconds of me explaining that, I have this enabled where I give the learner their score immediately. And I can see that I got 5 out of 10 based on 2 questions. This could have gone again to my professor first, where they can go in, review, decide to change that or not. But this is a cool way of maybe even just gamifying some of your activities within your course because you can allow learners to do these as fun activities at the end of each module and really test their knowledge in a different way that immerses them into the coursework in a more engaging way than, say, maybe just multiple choice. So I have the opportunity now to click into any one of these questions, and the AI is going to walk me as the student through what did I say, what did I not say, where did I miss the mark, and maybe I need to go back into my coursework and refresh a little bit so that I can feel a little bit more confident going into, say, the next week's module. So that was a very quick overview of the two workflows that we have. Again, I really want to encourage everybody, you have access to the individual one. So everybody can utilize video assignments in a way that's going to put their learners in a position to articulate their own thinking, their own feeling, their own concepts, to be able to more authentically assess that skill. If you're not seeing it, reach out to your CSE or CSM, or even myself if I know you in the chat, and we can make sure that we can get that working for you. But with that, I know we want to leave time for questions and discussion. So Victoria, I'm going to pass it back to you so we have time there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dana. This is so cool to see. I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but I just absolutely love getting to kind of, um, learn from other partners and such as well. So this was awesome. Before we jump into Q&A and discussion, I do want to just share a few resources with everybody. So the first thing that we have is just our post-session survey. So we'd love to hear from you guys. You can use the QR code on the screen, or there will be a link in the chat from Heather there. Your feedback really helps us to improve our offerings and just make our future sessions better fit your needs. So if you're able to participate, that would be fantastic. We've also added a couple links on the slide that provide information on our product idea exchange or pie process. So if you have any feedback regarding Brightspace itself, be sure to check out those resources. Then we also invite you to join our D2L Champions program. Being a champion gives you the opportunity to receive points for sharing your experience, providing feedback, and even checking out webinars like this one. You can then redeem these points for swag, gift cards, charity options, and additional D2L services. So you can find the link for the Champions program in the chat now. And then one last note before we jump into our discussion and Q&A time. This might have been your first webinar with us, but we do have more to come. So right now, this is what we have on the docket for higher education. Next month, we're having course design best practice for higher education, and we're actually going to have some of our instructional designers joining us for that session. So check out the links in the chat to register for those. And then we also have our training team who hosts 2 monthly sessions for all Brightspace users. The first is a Q&A drop-in session where you can get your Brightspace questions answered in real time. And then the second is what's is focused on what's new in Brightspace using our monthly release notes. These sessions do give you free access to our D2L training team in a way that you might not get otherwise, so be sure to check them out if you're available. You can find a link in the chat with more information on those sessions as well. The session was recorded and will be posted to our Bright Ideas for Higher Education YouTube playlist. That'll be posted within a week, and then you'll receive a link to that playlist with, as well as a copy of our slide deck, a copy of our Q&As from today, including the prompt that Dana shared in the chat, and a link to our post-session survey. But we want to thank everybody here for joining us today, and we really appreciate you taking the time to, join us live, and we hope to see you at a future session.